Hey guys, welcome back to my latest installment of my 70s series of the week videos. Now I know it's kind of dumb, especially me, to be calling them series of the week when I don't get to do them, but maybe every couple, 3 weeks. But anyway, this is the series of this week. And a couple of these books, you guys, I know you've probably already seen because I've been in the last couple of videos, but this was actually one of my favorite titles. Uh, Probably in my top 5 of all-time favorite titles, especially when I was a kid. It was some of the first back issues I ever ordered. But it's just some classic Silver Age sci-fi. It's all pretty much reprints. I think there was one story that's in 2 parts in like 7 and 8, and I'll get to that later. There was 25 issues in this run. And it actually started in October of 1969 and ran through December of 73. So close enough to a 70 series of the week, as I can put it. Anyway, all of these stories, except for the aforementioned one new story, were all reprinted from Mystery in Space and Strange Adventures. I think there was maybe 2 stories that were reprinted from Tales of the Unexpected. But I think all the rest of them were reprinted from probably early Silver Age, probably 1956 to like 1964 of Mystery in Space and Strange Adventures. I'm going to kind of give you a rundown of the writers and artists, so I'm not going to name like all the artists and writers in each issue. I might say a couple things about each issue, but I'll kind of go down a rundown. On the writers and artists, it's pretty much a who's who that wrote and drew for DC in the Silver Age at that time. On the writer side, you got Gardner Fox, who, I think along with Julius Schwartz, invented the Earth 1, Earth 2 concept, which was like my all-time favorite thing about DC Comics. But you got Gardner Fox and Otto Binder. Some of these guys, I had seen them as writers, but I never really knew who they were or a lot of stuff they did. But I think some of these books, and this is just one little note here, and a lot of the Silver Age books, and this covered like a lot of DC's titles, especially like the superhero and the sci-fi and Justice League and stuff like that. They'd have these little pages called Scientifact or Our Strange Universe, and it would have some little fact about the planets or something else like that. And so some of these writers and artists were just used just for that purpose, I think. I know my good buddy Rod, Dr. Silver Age, I know he's seen a lot of these because he collects a lot of the, he's collecting all the Go-Go Checks books. And I know a lot of those things that I'm talking about are in those books, and this is reprinted from those for the most part. But like I say, some of the writers include Gardner Fox, Otto Binder, who did a lot of the Marvel family stuff. Some guy named Ed Herron, and he's credited as France E. Herron, or Heron. John Broome did a lot of the Silver Age scripts for The Flash. Sid Gerson, Mort Drucker's another name I know a lot of recognize. Edmund Hamilton, he did a lot of the early Legion stories in the Silver Age. Denny O'Neil, Jack Miller, Man Rubin, Joe Millard, Joe Simoxon, Sam Merwin, Howard Sherman, and Julius Schwartz on the writer side. On the artist side, like I say, it's a virtual who's who of guys that worked in the Silver Age. And later on, some of the cover artists were kind of in the Bronze Age era, excuse me. But Joe Kubert, Mike Sikowski, Joe Giella, Bob Oskner, Bernard Sachs, Carmine Infantino, Murphy Anderson, Frank Giacoya, Alex Toth, Cy Barry, Neil Adams, Gil Kane, Henry Sharp, Sid Green, Mort Drucker. Some of these guys, like I say, I'd never heard of, so I think they did a lot of the Scientifact and Strange Universe features. But Morris Waldinger, I know that sounds like a made-up name, Tommy Nicolosi, and then we got Gray Morrow, Jerry Grandinetti, John Guinta, Manny Stallman, Wally Wood, Mike Kaluta, Howard Sherman, Nick Carty. Jack Adler was actually a colorist for DC, but he think he contributed a couple of photos. It was like a photo cover or two in this series. A guy named Ruben Miura and Jim Mooney. Probably about the only thing I'll mention about the art or anything is maybe the covers, and a lot of these will be apparent. For the most part, the covers were mostly Joe Kubert and Murphy Anderson. There were a few Neil Adams thrown in. And later on you have some Nick Cardy stuff and Mike Kaluta. And probably the bulk of the stories were written and drawn by Gardner Fox, and I would say probably Murphy Anderson and Carmine Infantino and Mike Sikowski, who was a longtime Justice League artist. But for the most part, it's Gardner Fox and Murphy Anderson. But anyway, first issue. You guys saw this in I think my last video, or like my top 20 comics, whatever it was. But a great Joe Kubert cover. Now this is one of those series. It's kind of like the Commandy run for me. I just loved it. And anytime I could pick up an issue, so most of these I've got at least one duplicate. Some of them I've got 2 and 3 duplicates on some of them. So if anybody's interested in doing some trading and would like some of these issues, and I think all the duplicates they're at least, I don't think there's anything worse than a very good plus, maybe, or very good, and they go on up to like maybe a fine plus on the other duplicates I have. But I tried to pull out all the best copies I had of these. So number 1, beautiful Joe Kubert cover, The Turtle Men of Space. Okay, number 2. This is one of those books that I coveted as a kid because I saw the ad for it like in a Justice League comic, and I was really thrilled to get it. It's a Murphy Anderson cover, and in this issue I think you have a short bio of Murphy Anderson. But just another gorgeous cover there. Giants of the Cosmic Ray. Number 3, very nice cover by Neil Adams, When the Earth Turned into a Comet. And this was actually, I think Gil Kane actually did the original cover art for this, and then I think they decided to have Neil Adams, just kind of revise it or redo it for some reason. I've seen the original Kane cover online, and I might have it in one of my Amazing World DC Comics magazines. But this was one of my favorite books. I really love the story. And number 3. Number 4, with another Murphy Anderson cover. Like I say, a lot of these early issues I got with some of my first back issues I ever ordered. So, Riddle of the Vanishing Earthmen, From Beyond the Unknown, number 4. Another 5. Another Murphy Anderson cover, The Gorilla Who Challenged the World. Man, you gotta love a gorilla cover or an ape cover. Of course, you guys know I'm all about the apes, so what's not to love about that? Another great cover by Neil Adams, and some of these are actually cover recreations of like some of the early. And this is a practice that Marvel did too. They did, repurposed a lot of Kirby covers and for later on, or they like redid them with another artist. But this is actually based on a cover from Strange Adventures number 85. It's kind of a recreation by Neil Adams, The Amazing Human Race. I'm sure you all get the joke there. Okay, and these when they went to 25-cent Giants. I think some of these were, at the beginning, were like 68 pages. And like I say, I think all of them, but maybe one story was all reprints. But here you have another Joe Kubert cover. And down at the bottom, you see an all-new spectacular, The Earth Shall Not Die. And this is part 1 of that story. And it was done by Denny O'Neil and Murphy Anderson on the art chores. But a great little package. Got a black cover, pretty tough to find in high grade. And I think the story behind The Earth Shall Not Die, there was a I think there were some toys back in the early to mid 60s uh, that were, it was an action figure called Matt Mason. He was like a spaceman or an astronaut. And those were real popular toys, a la, AKA action figures back in the mid 60s. And you see a lot of the originals are going for big prices on eBay. But actually, the story that started in 8 and concludes, or started in 7, excuse me, and concludes in 8, was actually going to be a feature by DC. But they decided to just change it around and change the names. It was actually based on that series of toys, Matt Mason. And I think Mattel actually put those out in the 60s. So let's begin that story. Here's issue 8. I always loved this cover. And this is actually Gray Morrow and Neil Adams. So very cool cover. You got the iconic Statue of Liberty thing going on. Another supersized issue. 64 pages to stagger the imagination. Okay, issue 9. Another great cover. I think there were reports for a long time that Neil Adams did this cover, but I think Gil Kane actually did this. And I think it might have been altered a little bit and might have been reprinted from an earlier cover. But there you are. Gil Kane or Neil Adams, depending on what you believe. Okay, this is issue 10. Another Murphy Anderson cover. Another giant size issue. I thought a lot of these might have been square bound, but they're all I guess what they call saddle stitched. I'm not sure, but still giant size issues. So everything to love about that. And this is actually a recreation or a redrawing of a Strange Adventures 56 cover. For those of you that are interested. Here's number 11. Murphy Anderson cover. It's another one based on an earlier issue. This is based on Mystery in Space cover number 43. Invaders from the Space Satellites. Like anybody's a fan of sci-fi and aliens and monsters. I mean, this is especially the Silver Age stuff. This book is for you. This is it's another one of my favorite covers of this series. Joe Kubert. I think I might have gifted one of these to my good buddy John, Dr. Von Chilla. But this is number 12. And this is based on a similar cover from Strange Adventures 147, if anybody wants to look that up. Okay, let's get to the rest of them. Okay, thought I had these in order. Apparently I did not, so pardon me while I do get them in order. Okay, I think we're ready to go now. Okay, issue 13, another Joe Kubert cover. This is one of those series that I was really happy to complete, and I think still you can probably get them on the cheap. I think the higher grade stuff you might have to pay a penny for, but it's one of those series that is a real, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of easy to complete. I have issue 14, another great Joe Kubert ape cover. I think this might have foreshadowed some of his stuff that he did on Tarzan. And you see the page counts kind of went down. Some of them are 48, some of them are 52, kind of jumps back and forth. Don't really know the story behind that.